Well, if we look at the whole world, we realize that our Orthodox, intramural Orthodox problems are part of a whole complex, a whole ongoing problem with the entire revolution in the Christian world. There's this fault line between traditionalism and so-called progressivism or innovation or modernism in the entire Christian world. Of course, our intramural Orthodox problems are the most important because the Orthodox Church is the real church. And the betrayal within Orthodoxy, or former Orthodoxy, is the most important betrayal. It's the worst because corruptio optimi pessima, that is, the corruption of the worst, of the best, is the worst. Now, how do we approach this? How do we deal with deciding where is the church, which Orthodox hierarchy has the claim to being authentically Orthodox, and so forth? Well, of course, we have to study. We have to study the dogmas, the canons, the history of the church, the examples of the saints, and then evaluate the evidence that we really have in front of us. But besides studying with our minds, we also have to develop diakrisis, discernment, develop a nose for the fragrance of Orthodoxy, the feel of Orthodoxy. So both of these processes have to go on. That's why I remember in one of our earlier talks, I talked so much about the importance of spiritual life. We can't just study with our brains, so to speak. We have to be developing an Orthodox heart. Father Seraphim Rose would talk about suffering Orthodoxy, having a suffering heart, really being pained over the question of truth. Where is the church? Where is salvation? That's a hallmark of true Orthodoxy. So we have to develop this suffering heart and an intense desire for integrity, an intense desire to know the truth, and follow it where it leads, no matter what the cost. The late Metropolitan Petros of Astoria, of blessed memory, would say, we're not old calendarists. We're not genuine Orthodox. We're just Orthodox. We use this title of the genuine Orthodox to distinguish ourselves from the ecumenists or the fallen Orthodox hierarchies, right? But the point is not to invent a new church. The point is to stay in the church. Sometimes they say, why did you leave the church? Well, we didn't leave the church. We separated from the ecumenists, from the apostates, in order to stay in the church. See? So our point is not to be some super Orthodox or special Orthodox or a new kind of Orthodox, but to actually stay within the church. A problem is that Orthodox with a capital O has become like a brand name, an appellation for certain organizations. The question is, which of the big O Orthodox are really Orthodox with a small o, actually are teaching the true faith, are faithful to the tradition of the church, are faithful to the teaching of the apostles?
Where does someone start if they're on a journey to discover this?
Well, we have to start with learning we talked earlier about learning the creed, learning the traditions of the church, learning the teaching of the church. And then we have to read about what's going on in the contemporary world, actually what's been going on for the last 100 years in the Orthodox world. And we can't cover all that in this short talk today. We can only introduce the topic, and we can guide our viewers to some sources so they can start reading.
Well, very briefly, people watching this might not really know, they've never heard of the Old Calendar Church. What is it?
Well, what's going on here is that from the 1920s until now, all the so-called official Orthodox hierarchies have gotten increasingly involved in what's called ecumenism, which is the effort to create a one-world religion or a one super church. The change in the church calendar is something we can cover that requires a whole lecture on itself. But the change in the church calendar back in the 1920s, and then as time went on, different jurisdictions changed to the new calendar, is not the whole picture. We can't get caught up just in the calendar question. The calendar change was the first step in an entire program of destroying the Orthodox nations, separating traditional Orthodox people from their Orthodox cultures, causing division in the church, and reducing the Orthodox Church to just another religious organization. So one thing that so-called new calendarists do to confuse us or upset us is to start analyzing the calendar and pointing out how the calendar is not a dogmatic issue. Well, frankly, I tell them, I don't care whether it's a dogmatic issue or not. It's obvious to anyone who's honest that the calendar change was a cynical, conspiratorial and criminal change to just as a first step in an entire program of destroying orthodoxy. That's the point. And if you can't see that, you're not being honest. And getting off into analyzing the canonicity of the calendar in and of itself is a footnote. It's a side issue. The important thing is fidelity to Christ, not just saying the history of what happened and why the calendar was changed. The important thing is that we did not leave the church. These hierarchies, these official organizations left us. We are what they used to be. We stayed in the church. They left by their changes, and especially specifically by participating in the World Council of Churches and common prayer with the Pope, and even common prayer with non-Christians. They have denied Christ. That's the point.
Some sources where someone can see this for themselves?
Well, I encourage people to go to our diocesan or metropolis website, hatka.org, or thegreekorthodoxchurch.com. Yeah. And we'll share with our viewers these two addresses or two URLs for two talks by Father Maximus, Hieromonk Maximus of Holy Ascension Monastery, entitled Why the True Orthodox Are Truly Orthodox, and the problem of conservative new calendarism, the people who stay in the ecumenist churches but claim that they're fighting from within, and what the problem is with that position, and why our position is the right one.